2.5 years since the introduction of the Boo Boo Pharmacy, Baizhu is finally out, and here to give his prescription on Dendro teams. YouTube frogs, welcome to a complete 3.6 Baizhu guide covering the most essential information you'll need on the master of medicinal knowledge. We'll be covering his talents, playstyles, optimal weapons, optimal artifacts, constellations, and team comps alongside a gameplay showcase. Let's begin. From C0 to C6, the core of Baiju's kit surrounds his all-encompassing supportive capabilities, combining both consistent shields, consistent heals, and power boosts to both bloom-related and quicken-related reactions. Baizhu is a universal staple in all teams Dendro. Characters that used to struggle with inconsistent off-field Dendro application are now back in full swing with the caretaker Baizhu. His design centers around his Burst and Ascension 4 passive. The combination of both is responsible for long-duration refresh shielding, healing, Dendro application, and damage percent boosts to Dendro-related DPS. His skill is a simple but efficient ability used whenever possible, responsible for additional Dendro application, an AoE team heal, and Dendro particle generation. His normal charge attack inherently doesn't matter when it comes to DPS, but as a Dendro Catalyst user, Baizhu can be used as an on-field Dendro driver, but not in typical ranged form. His Catalyst attacks mimic a martial artist in close combat. Let's take a closer look at his abilities. Elemental Burst, Baiju's first priority talent investment. Holistic Revivification is responsible for healing, shielding, Dendro application, and Dendro-related damage boost courtesy of his passive talent. He enters a Pulsing Clarity state, which summons a thin shield scaling off of his max HP, refreshing every 2.5 seconds up to the total duration of 14 seconds. During this period, the shield will simultaneously single target heal only the active character, and then fire a Spirit Vein, dealing single target attack scaling Dendro damage if one of the two conditions are met. Seamless Shield is refreshed while the previous one still exists, which means that it's not destroyed, or Seamless Shield is destroyed by enemy attacks or expires at the end of his burst duration. These two conditions guarantee that Baiju's shield will activate its attack and heal a total of 6 times during his entire burst, regardless if the shield is always destroyed or never destroyed during combat. With a 20-second cooldown and 80 energy cost, this is pretty expensive. Considering that his ideal playstyle is one where he's off-field, his energy requirements will near 180 to 200% in optimal rotations. With Baiju's A4 passive, active characters who are healed by his burst will gain boosts for Dendro-related damage according to his max HP. Burning and Bloom-related damage, which includes Nilou's Super Blooms, gain a 2% per 1000 HP bonus, while Spread Aggravate gain a 0.8% per 1000 HP bonus. With the cap of a 50,000 HP Baizhu, these buffs total at 100% for Burning and Bloom, which are additive to other additional bonuses like Nilou's A4 passive, and then 40% for Spread Aggravate. Overall, it's a universally solid passive that benefits any Dendro-related team. Elemental Skill, Baiju's second priority talent investment. Universal Diagnosis is a simple but effective ability that has 3 sources of value. Having pseudo AoE capabilities, his skill can hit up to 3 enemies, applying Dendro to each one. The first enemy it hits will generate 3 to 4 Dendro particles. On return, it heals your entire party according to Baiju's max HP, which usually heals around 5 to 6k, and is Baiju's only source of AoE team healing without weapon passives. With a 10-second cooldown, only 2 of these will be used in a perfect Baizhu burst rotation, but depending on the team composition, only 1 may be used in practice. This is without Constellation 1. This may further increase his energy recharge needs, which is why I recommend nearing 200% for most use cases. Normal charge attack. While Baiju's normal charge attack are not important for talent investment, you can choose to run him as an on-field Dendro driver as a close combat acupuncturist. Talent investment is very straightforward. Elemental Burst over Elemental Skill, with the normal charge attack having no value. His burst gains both increased shield value and heal value per level, and his skill gains increased heal value. Now let's go over Baiju's playstyles. The vast majority of players will opt for an off-field playstyle, using Baiju's skill to funnel energy before activating his burst and rotating to an on-fielder. This type of playstyle is optimal for his A4 passive activation to make the most use of his damage percent bonuses for a character that either excels in Spread Aggravate DPS, like Cyno, or is activating a bunch of blooms, like Nilou's Super Bloom. Because Baizhu himself stacks HP to increase his shield strength, healing, and of course his passive, he doesn't have much inherent EM himself to provide strong bloom damage on field. However, an on-field playstyle is still totally viable, it's just weaker. In this particular type of play, Baizhu himself will utilize his normal charge attacks to consistently apply Dendro to the enemies, throwing out his skill and burst whenever applicable. For burst uptime, off-field will usually only activate 1 skill per burst rotation, making his energy requirements higher at 180 to 200%. On-field Baizhu will be able to activate 2 skills per burst rotation, lowering energy requirements to about 160%. My personal preference is running off-field Baizhu to make the most out of his entire kit. Weapons. When building Baizhu, while there are multiple weapons that fit how he can play, there's really only 4 I would consider using on him, and 2 are purely F2P. Taking a look at his signature weapon, Jadefall's Splendor provides a heavy HP % stat stick, immense flat energy return, and elemental damage bonus from max HP up to 40,000. The largest value that Baizhu gains from this weapon is the HP stat stick and the flat energy return. For Baizhu specifically, his flat energy always happens 5 times during his burst, returning him 22.5 out of 80 energy at R1. This effectively reduces his burst cost to 58 instead of 80, massively reducing his ER needs. The damage bonus percent is only really relevant at C6 Baizhu, where his burst spirit veins gain HP scaling. The other HP % 5-star weapon, Everlasting Moonglow, is quite inferior to his signature weapon, but it also does provide solid HP %, though it trades Jadefall's energy refund for Moonglow's healing bonus increase. Since he will primarily be off-field, the normal attack passive bonus is basically non-existent. For 4-star weapons, 99% of you will be running the prototype Amber. This is an excellent F2P craftable weapon that has perfect synergy with Baiju's kit. I would consider this much more useful than Everlasting Moonglow, becoming his second best choice right behind his signature weapon. It provides juicy HP %, flat energy return that scales with refinement, and an additional AoE team heal during his burst. Lastly, we have the trusty 3-star Thrilling Tales. Also grants HP % secondary stat, and this is more of an offensive choice for quick and oriented team comps that can actually utilize the attack %. So those are the 4 main weapons that I recommend on Baizhu. Here are some other options if you aren't able to use the previous 4. We have Oathsworn Eye, which is an event weapon, and an energy recharge stat stick after using his elemental skill. We have Hakushin Ring, which is also an ER stat stick and gives a short damage bonus for only quicken teams as it requires an electro-related reaction. He must be on field to generate the buff, and it only lasts for 6 seconds. Fruit of Fulfillment, energy recharge stat stick. The passive does increase his elemental mastery, but this is extremely minor and won't affect Baiju's impact on the team. Favonius Codex. While you think that Favonius is a de facto excellent choice, it forces him to be on field for maximum consistency and requires investment into crit rate for the passive to be relatively effective. From my experience, unless you are committed to an on-field Baizhu, it gives way less value over time than prototype Amber. Artifacts and stats. For Baizhu, while his artifact options are actually quite versatile, most of you will probably want your Baizhu on a universal Dendro set. Because he's not responsible himself for reaction damage, Baizhu is a perfect candidate to hold 4-piece Deepwood until the end of time. It has 100% uptime with Baiju's burst, and it activates off-field, making it perfect for his playstyle. If you're not running 4-piece Deepwood, he still has quite a selection of possible sets. For HP, we have 2-piece Tenacity and Glow set. For energy recharge, we have Emblem set. For burst damage and attack support with Thrilling Tales, we have 4-piece Noblesse. On-field Baizhu still prioritizes 4-piece Deepwood, and if you want some hybrid elemental mastery, any of the 2-piece EM choices are okay. Personally, if not running 4-piece Deepwood, I like a combo of the HP and energy recharge 2 pieces, depending on how much recharge he needs. I don't really prefer running any of the healing bonus oriented pieces, because HP % for Baizhu grants more than just healing. It also boosts his shielding and his A4. If you are a rare C6 Baizhu owner and want to prioritize his burst max HP scaling damage, 4-piece Emblem is a great default option that benefits his own energy recharge and scales it into burst damage. Main stat choices. My personal recommendations will consider a full tank off-field or on-field Baizhu, or a C6 burst DPS Baizhu. So for full tank, which is off or on field, we have ER or HP timepiece, an HP goblet, and an HP over healing bonus circlet. Timepiece is pretty heavily dependent on which stat you lack more. For my recommendation, first priority is getting an energy recharge timepiece so that you can hit 180 to 200% recharge. If you can already hit this without an ER timepiece, second priority is HP % until you hit 50k HP. For C6 DPS Baizhu, just go the standard HP DPS build with HP timepiece, Dendro Goblet, and a crit mask. This one will prioritize recharge substats for about 160%, including 2-piece Emblem for proper uptime. I don't really recommend attack scaling Baizhu builds as it really interferes with the design of his kit, and instead recommend on-field driver tank Baizhu that basically serves the same purpose. Now that we've discussed his weapons and artifacts, let's combine these to create a template build. Minimum requirement level 90 Baizhu. This maximizes his base HP to 13,000 and also grants a little bit more HP % from his Ascension stat. The only 2 stats that really matter on him are his HP pool and the amount of recharge. For this build, using a prototype Amber at R1, you should be able to achieve my stats. For HP, anything above 40,000 HP is sustainable. I found that hitting 50,000 HP on 4-piece Deepwood while also having decent recharge is not actually that easy, especially since its base HP is only 13k. My recharge is within the range of 180 to 200%, and I'm using a main stat energy recharge timepiece to achieve this. This build is the most balanced that I can currently achieve without sacrificing too many useful stats. If you do sacrifice 4-piece Deepwood for 2-piece HP %, achieving 50k HP with this amount of recharge is possible, but not necessarily worth it. Baiju's full design is almost complete at Constellation 0. In my opinion, the only thing he lacks is self-sustainable energy generation, since his skill usage is pretty limited during an off-field playstyle. During a normal burst rotation, most of the time you'll fire off his skill right before activating his burst and then switching off for your main DPS. Constellation 1 grants his skill 1 extra charge. Just like Yelan, Baiju's C1 solves this efficient skill usage by allowing 2 charges or 20 seconds worth to be used right away before his burst activation, allowing the energy to be funneled before swapping off. With C1, his effective recharge needs are reduced to 140 to 160%, lower if double Dendro team comp and or weapon passives. C2. This is basically a mini elemental skill every 5 seconds that deals attack scaling damage, applies Dendro, and heals for 20% of his normal skill healing. In a typical rotation, C2 procs at least 4 times during his burst, providing extra consistent AoE team healing without the need to actively use his skill. C3, C5, plus 2 levels to burst and skill. C4 provides a nice universal AD team elemental mastery after burst activation. This will always be useful on relevant team comps, assisting both bloom and quicken related damage. C6, so this does 3 things. First, it enables his burst spirit veins to deal extra HP scaling DPS. Second, his C2 mini elemental skills and then firing his normal elemental skill with your E now generate his burst shield. Third, the additional shields generated also summon more spirit veins that deal his C6 enhanced damage. So with all of this, his C6 effectively doubles the amount of spirit veins fired from about 6 to 10 to 12, and combined with his max HP scaling, deals about 80 to 100% of Baiju's max HP over his entire burst duration. Overall, Baizhu does not need any of his constellations, especially from C2 and onwards. C1 is just like Yelan's and has the most immediate value by increasing his playstyle efficiency, subsequently reducing his overall ER needs. Team comps, combining persistent shields, heals, constant Dendro reapplication, and damage boosts to both Bloom and Quicken comps, Baizhu relieves a lot of stress on the usual rigidity of Dendro teams. We can divide these Dendro teams into 2 major categories, Quicken and Bloom. Quicken teams with a Dendro support like Baizhu typically end up as Aggravate and optionally with the Hydro combo, Hyper Bloom. These team variations receive a much needed flexible healer that applies persistent Dendro application over a long duration. In this realm, Cyno probably receives the most needed upgrade, as Baiju's Dendro application covers for Cyno's long duration burst much more effectively than Nahida can. Usually consisting of Electro main DPS plus Baizhu plus double flex, this team template focuses on primarily aggravate damage and secondarily hyperbloom damage if Hydro is added to a flex slot. The 4th slot opens up double Dendro, double Electro, a Nemo, or Zhongli depending on the circumstance, each providing their own benefits and residence bonuses to the team. This setup is typically very straightforward, with off-field supports unleashing their EQ combos before the Electro main DPS jumps onto the field. The 2 most popular DPS choices for this are Cyno and Keqing. And for my extremely rare C6 Baizhu DPSers, he'll transform these Quicken teams into a spread, aggravate, dual DPS with his C6 HP enhanced spirit veins. Second is Bloom. This includes standard Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, or Nilou Super Bloom. The core of these comps surrounds Baizhu, plus 1 off-field Hydro, plus your Hyper Bloom, Burgeon, or Super Bloom enabler, and a corresponding flex. In the Hyper Bloom Burgeon version, Cookie or Raiden will be the Electro activator, and Tomo will be the Pyro activator, with the 4th slot occupied with double Dendro, Zhongli, or Cryo. In this setup, Baizhu, or the second Dendro if applicable, is more than welcome to be an on-field driver. These comps feel much more complete with the addition of Baizhu, as he single-handedly protects the entire team, buffs the team's damage, and applies Dendro at a consistent rate to keep the cores generating. As this A4 passive only applies to the active character when they are healed, you may opt to drop Zhongli for a more offensive 4th flex slot and occasionally swap to your Burgeon Hyperbloom activator to gain his damage bonus for 6 seconds. In these teams, Baiju's rotation is very straightforward. He becomes an EQ support that will set up and either stay on field to normal attack for Dendro application or swap out. In Nilou's Super Bloom comp, Baizhu adds massive flexibility by reducing the rigidity of this team template. Before Baizhu, we originally had Kokomi to ensure healing, and then Yao Yao released as an unkillable Dendro tank, and both of these comps wanted Nahida to transfer elemental mastery and improve the bloom damage. Now with Baiju's survivability and bloom boost, Nahida is no longer required for Nilou's team comp, and is free to assist in building a different team. In this team, Baizhu is not ideal for on-field since his build is like Nilou's and isn't elemental mastery focused. Chances are if you pulled for Baizhu, you probably have some kavehs and can definitely slot him in for the on-field. So, with the release of Baizhu, Nilou's Super Bloom comp now has 3 team comp variations that provide quite nice flexibility in an otherwise 2-element restricted comp. And that concludes an essential guide to Baizhu for patch 3.6. He truly feels like a one-for-all Dendro support, able to boost any of the relevant Dendro teams to their highest potential. No matter where you decide to throw him in, you can always count on his medicinal knowledge to keep your allies standing tall and healthy. Good luck to all Baizhu wanters, and I pray that you become a Baizhu haver. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of him in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Take care.